What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and you're excited for another Dallas Cowboys game. That's right. It's time for America's team to get going once again. And this week, the opponent is a familiar one. The New York Football Giants are coming to town on Sunday, October 10th. 2021, almost the 1-year anniversary of the last time they visited AT&T Stadium, a day we would all love to forget, a day that Dak Prescott was injured, lost for the season, a day that the Fox broadcast is going to remind us about 1,000 times. Heads up, just so you're aware, this is a storyline that just will never go away as far as the NFL is concerned. But there are a lot of important things to actually discuss when it comes to this football game, and that's what we're here to do. This is our preview show here on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. Please subscribe. We do this every week. The goal is to give you an understanding of the team the Cowboys are playing, how they can exploit them, the advantages they can have, the disadvantages they might be up against. We generally talk with somebody who covers the other team, which is what we're going to do here today. Ed Valentine from Big Blue View, SB Nation's home for New York Giants content, will join us. As always, we'll dive into the film room with Matt Minnick, and we'll have a lot of fun. That's what we do here. So please, fasten your seatbelts. Emergency exits are on the side. I don't know the proper hand signals here, but the point is we're going to have a good time because the Dallas Cowboys are probably going to win this game, for being honest with ourselves, right? This is a very good football team in the Dallas Cowboys, and this is a very not so good team in the New York Giants. And so how can the Dallas Cowboys have success against the New York Giants? Well, first things first, this offense that we keep talking about in Dallas needs to dominate. This Giants defense was pretty good last year, something that we'll touch on with Ed certainly in a little bit. But this Giants defense is not that good this season. In fact, Football Outsiders has them ranked as 27th as far as defensive DVOA is concerned. This is not a group that is playing well. This is not a group that is doing much to really give their offense, which is also struggling, a chance. And that's just too bad. You hate to see it. But seriously, the Cowboys offense needs to capitalize here. They played a really, really stout defense last week in Carolina. That defensive front of the Panthers got after the Cowboys a little bit early on before things stabilized in the third quarter, all across the second half, really. This Giants defense is not that. This Cowboys offense needs to take advantage and needs to exploit them and needs to help out the rest of their team in every way that they can, which leads us to our second point. This is a game the Cowboys should win. I'm reading verbatim here. That's why we put the graphic on the screen. They shouldn't waste time scoring. I mentioned that Carolina game last week. That was 14-13 at the half. We would do a halftime show on the Blogging the Boys Instagram account, blogging.the.boys, if you want to check it out. Tony Catalina is there. You can obviously hang out with me on the postgame show, but Tony does a great job at halftime. And halftime last week, everybody's, running around like our pets' heads are falling off because it was 14-13. Things were tight. Things were sticky. And I'm not trying to say the Panthers were not a good team because we learned that the Panthers are definitely a good team. I think they're going to the playoffs, but this is not them. This is not that team. It's a divisional matchup, sure, but this is a team the Cowboys should beat. This is a team the Cowboys should win easily against because it's, I don't say it's David versus Goliath or anything like that, but from what we've seen so far this season, and we're in week 5, we're not in week 2 or week 3, we have legitimate data sets to understand who these teams are. So the Cowboys should win, and we don't need to see them play down to their competition. I've talked so much about over this last week, both here on the YouTube channel, on our podcast network, and other appearances, how the Cowboys this season have been doing things that they should be. They're checking off the should boxes, right? That game against the Philadelphia Eagles, similar to this game, we knew that wasn't a very good Eagles team. And so what should the Cowboys have done? They should have gone out and won with authority, and that's what they did. The game against the Carolina Panthers, Carolina was a bit of a paper tiger. Like I said, we've obviously acknowledged that they're a good team, but they were not as good as that 3-0 record indicated. So what should the Cowboys have done? They should have beat them. I don't think any of us thought they'd win as handily as they did. Again, that third quarter was just an explosion offensively and defensively, an overall explosion, but they should have won. So if we want to see the Cowboys continue to do those should things, we want to keep checking off those should boxes. You should go out and you should score often and you should score early and you should put this thing away. This is America's Game of the Week on Fox. Troy Aikman, Joe Buck, Aaron Andrews. Make it boring. Make the ratings awesome, but make it boring. Leave no doubt. Make sure that you put this away early and you don't play down to your competition like we've seen the Cowboys do in years past, which ultimately leads us to my final point, at least. The Cowboys have to take this game seriously and not buy into their own hype. I've spent a lot of time so far today as I move over here, so we give room for the proper graphic, or the proper room for the graphic, excuse me. we've thrown a lot of roses at the Cowboys this week. Rightfully so. They've earned it. I mentioned DVOA. They are the second-ranked team in terms of overall DVOA. DVOA, a fantastic metric that Football Outsiders tracks every week. Now, that's really good. They are a really good football team. That's not hyperbole. That's not exaggeration. That's not, being a homer. That's not any of that. They are objectively a very good football team. Be that team. What we don't want to see is this Cowboys team getting tall, acting tall. Go out and be tall. That's all we want you to do. Just be tall. Be the team that you have been over the course of this last month. Even in that loss at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, do not let the moment get too big for you. Do not allow yourself to buy into the moment. We, again, have seen that from the Cowboys in years past. Go out and get this win, get to 4-1, keep your head down. We've seen the Cowboys talk about this mentality, talk about going 1-0 every week. That's what this is about. This isn't about you being 3-1, the Giants being 1-3. This is about you getting a win and making sure that they walk home with a loss. And that is ultimately the goal this particular Sunday at AT&T Stadium. But that's the Cowboys side of things. What the New York Giants have to say? What does Ed Valentine have to say? Ed Valentine, again, does a fantastic job covering the Giants here at SB Nation for BigBlueView.com. He joins us next to talk about the other side of the ball in this game. Now by the one, the only, the legendary, the incomparable, internationally famous, supremely handsome, supremely talented, athletic beyond all measure, the manager, editor-in-chief, head honcho, the ultra amazing as always from Big Blue View, SB Nation's home for New York Giants content. It is Ed Valentine. Ed, how goes it?
It's good, RJ. I had no idea that you could lie that well.
I have never told a lie. I have no idea how Pinocchio lives his life that way. I am all about honesty and integrity, Ed, which is why I've predicted the Dallas Cowboys to win this week, because I can't tell a lie. You're here to tell us about the New York Giants, their strengths, their weaknesses, your thoughts on the white pants they debuted last week against the New Orleans Saints. Let's start there. Those were new, the white pants for the Giants last week, or with the white uniform specifically. The white combo is what I'm talking about.
Love the white pants, RJ. Love the white pants. Hate the gray pants. The gray pants are just miserable, awful, the worst thing ever as far as I'm concerned. They're just boring.
They're dreary. I agree.
So love the white pants. I love the all white Giants throwbacks when they wear them. So and for what it's worth, I want to see all caps Giants on the helmets.
100%.
I'm done with this lowercase NY.
Yeah.
I look at it this way. They play in New Jersey. Let's get the NY off the helmet and just put Giants up there.
How can you call yourself the Giants and then have your like symbol be lowercase? You know what I mean? Like at least make it a capital NY. You know what I mean? Like it's beyond me.
Yeah, at least the Giants have gotten rid of the red sort of, the red jerseys that they would wear on occasion. I don't know if
like
they're
those
throwback jerseys. How can you call yourself as a nickname Big Blue and wear red jerseys that have no blue in them?
It's a good point. Very good point. There was not a lot of blue with the white ensemble. I know the check mark on the pants was blue, which was a nice subtle, kiss of touch, but whatever. This is not the New York Fashion Week or whatever it's called that happens.
We can try. You and I are both fashion plates, as everybody can see.
That's a good point. That's a great point, Ed. Daniel Jones, New York Giants quarterback's coming off a 400-yard performance. NFC Offensive Player of the Week going up against the NFC Defensive Player of the Week this week. And Trayvon Diggs. Not often that happens. Your thoughts? I mean, you've written this week. We talked on your show about it on the Big Blue View Network about how Daniel Jones kind of quieted his haters. There have been a lot basically since day one. Have there been Giants fans that are earnestly retracting Daniel Jones, stuff, or is this just overreacting to last week? Do you think this is the beginning of something new? Because this Cowboys defense, as you and I have discussed, can be had in certain measures, and Daniel Jones is a talented athletic quarterback that might be able to take advantage.
Well, it's very interesting. I poked fun at some of the headlines that I saw this week in regards to Daniel Jones, because ever since Dave Gettleman made him the 6th overall pick a couple of years back, the narrative has been, this is a guy from Duke. Gettleman's an idiot for picking him number 6, and Jones can't play, and everybody's highlight of Jones's career was him falling on his face last year when the end zone was closer than any Eagles defender, and so, but when you look at Daniel Jones, very quietly since about the middle of last year, Daniel Jones has played much better. He had one interception, I think, in his last 6 games last year. A lot of his production with his legs was limited because he had a hamstring injury and then an ankle injury. So he kind of became a statue in the pocket the second half of the year. But he played quarterback very well, I thought, the second half of the year. He just didn't have a lot of weapons around him. The Giants didn't score a lot of points. And this year he's played good football. His only interception of the year was a halftime Hail Mary, which, I mean, I'm sorry, that doesn't count. That a halftime Hail Mary.
One of the Cowboys' takeaways this year is a halftime Hail Mary that they picked off of Tom Brady. And you're right, they count in terms of stat sheets and box scores, but you're just trying to make something happen. Not a big deal. Totally agree with you.
Right. So, I mean, my point is, everybody went, oh my God. All of a sudden, Daniel Jones might actually be good now. The Giants offense might actually be good now. And I sort of thought that they had slowly been building to a game like last week. They're still not 100% in terms of weapons. Sterling Shepard's out. Darius Slayton will be out, but they got a good game last week from Kadarius Toney. Kenny Golladay is producing for them. The offensive line's been better than expected. So, so I think Daniel Jones is trending in the right direction. The offense is trending in the right direction. Can they repeat that kind of performance again? I don't know. But I think that there have been some good signs.
I think that's well said, and you're right. It's hard to make lemonade when you've got all these lemons even missing, so to speak. But the Giants did that, and they beat the Saints. A lot of people thought that was impossible last week. A lot of people expected a winless Giants team to enter AT&T Stadium on Sunday. You mentioned the defense. When Brandon Lee Gouton and I, do a show every week on the Blogging the Boys Podcast Network and BGN's, where we cover the NFC East. And over the offseason, we did an all NFC East team. We kind of put together the best players, which was a difficult task across the division. But Blake Martinez made our team, and we talked about he was kind of an underrated player for the Giants. And so he's out for the season. What do you make of this Giants defense and kind of, the loss of Blake and we talked about how the Giants might have the best secondary in the division at the beginning of it. We both are really high on Adoree Jackson. So has the Giants defense, I don't know if you had expectations, has it lived up to it? Because that's maybe where this game could be won or lost for New York, is if they're able to inhibit the Dallas offense or if they just get walked all over, unfortunately.
Well, here's the way I looked at the Giants before the season started. They had a top 10 defense last year. I think it was 9th or 10th in the league in yards allowed and more importantly in points allowed. So they were maybe not elite, but they were good enough. They were in the upper third of the league in defense. And I looked at this defense. They added Adoree Jackson. They added a second-round pick in Azeez Ojulari, who I love. I think Azeez Ojulari was a really, really good pick for the Giants, a really good fit. I mean, he hasn't gone to Micah Parsons level at this point, but Azeez Ojulari is the first rookie in Giants history to have sacks in his first 3 games. He's made an impact. I looked at the defense and I thought they'll be at least as good, if not better. And I thought this was a Giants team that averaged 17.1 points per game a year ago, 31st in the league. I thought the Giants are in business if they play defense the way they played defense last year and can get to league average on offense, which is basically 25 points a game.
Kind of the inverse of the Cowboys, by the way. Every Cowboys fan has said this offense just needs to stay the course, defense get to average, and then we're cooking with gas, so to speak.
And unfortunately for the Giants, what has happened is the offense is showing signs of improvement. They scored 29 points against Washington. without a drop touchdown by Darius Slayton and a touchdown taken off Slayton was open by 15 yards and he couldn't catch the ball, and a touchdown taken off the board on a holding penalty that really probably was not a holding penalty. They might put up 40 against Washington. They played really well last week, but unfortunately what has happened for the Giants is that this defense has not performed up to expectations so far. They're 31st in the league, I think, in pass rush win rate. They're at the bottom of the league in sacks. Leonard Williams, who had double-digit sacks last year, is kind of predictably not performing at that level this year. He's a good player, but he's not a guy you should count on for double-digit sacks every year. Ojulari has had his moments, but overall they're not rushing the passer very well. And the most disturbing thing has been they have not covered nearly as well as anyone anticipated that they would. Terry McLaurin of Washington, Terry McLaurin just ate James Bradberry alive in week 2. And, Bradberry made one good play that gave the Giants a chance at the end of the game. But other than that, McLaurin just had his way with Bradberry. As good a player as Bradberry is, no one has shown fear of him. Adoree Jackson dropped an interception against the Atlanta Falcons in the end zone that basically would have sealed a victory for the Giants. And his coverage has been up and down. And the secondary's been that way through 4 games. It's been up and down. The Giants haven't made stops at key times, with the exception of last week against New Orleans, when I think they made 3 fourth-quarter stops that gave them a chance to make a comeback.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just the way it goes, as everything you think you don't know, the things that you're counting on, it's because you're right. I think a lot of us do that. Like, okay, Leonard Williams, just do it again. Just be that guy. And then that dips. And so all of a sudden, you're borrowing from Peter to pay Paul type thing, which is it's just unfortunate.
I look at it this way too, RJ. Last year, Patrick Graham was in his first year as Giants defensive coordinator. And it seemed like every time Patrick Graham had an idea, every time he made a little tweak to a scheme, or every time he made a call in a big spot, it turned out to be the right call. Mm-hmm. Every time there were 2 occasions last year. There was an occasion, and I forget which game it was. There was an occasion where they put in a defensive wrinkle on Sunday morning for a Sunday afternoon game. They walked through it, and he's like, I have this idea. Let's go with it. And they walked through it in the hotel on a Sunday morning and made a big play with it later that day. And so far this year, you see too many situations where the Giants are caught in the wrong defense, or where they're caught, with a blown coverage, or where you dial up a pressure and it just doesn't work, or you go man-to-man defense, which is the whole reason they signed Adoree Jackson, and the offense manages to identify the one matchup that they can win. And it's like that magic touch that he had a year ago just hasn't quite been there so far this year. And I suppose that's the way it can be with defense.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing to stick year to year in the NFL for a reason. It's the least predictable, least sustainable thing in terms of year to year consistency. Ed, we've talked offense, we've talked defense. I have 2 more for you, both in the realm of coaching. Joe Judge has made headlines this year, to be kind. Obviously, after the Denver game, the challenge situation, after the Washington game, you mentioned the holding penalty on the Daniel Jones touchdown, and people really after Joe Judge for just kind of cleaning up, penalties and things like that. Somebody who does harp on kind of the intricacies of the game in that sense. What's been your takeaway on Joe Judge? Obviously took over that post the same time Mike McCarthy took over as the Cowboys head coach. Ron Rivera in Washington. Is Joe Judge, kind of, I don't want to say wearing out his welcome, but where do Giants fans stand on the head coach at the moment?
Well, it's funny, RJ, because it's a little bit different answer than it might have been a week ago. All right. Because they just won a game. Okay. I think that when John Mara and Steve Tisch hired Joe Judge, they said, look, we have to be more patient with this head coach than we were with the last two.
Mm-hmm.
Ben McAdoo didn't last 2 full seasons. Pat Shurmur lasted 2 full seasons, and the Giants said, wait a minute, he's a nice guy, but he can't win football games. You know, he's an offensive coordinator.
Right.
And moved on. So my take is, first and foremost, Joe Judge is going to be the Giants head coach for a while. You know, I think he's going to be the Giants head coach next year, maybe the year after that. Who knows, depending on how things go, but they're going to give him time. And I think that's the right thing to do. I think he potentially is a very good NFL head coach. That said, the first 3 weeks were not a good look for Joe Judge. Week 1 against Denver, the challenge issue that you mentioned, and as you said, Judge is a guy who prides himself on teaching situational football, on not making emotional penalties, on playing, you know, solid fundamental football. And Judge made an emotional, rash decision that cost his team a timeout. So he violated his own teaching. Not to mention, in that game, the Giants had 3 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties for hits out of bounds or hits that were late. Weeks 2 and weeks 3, the Giants had tons of penalties, tons of mistakes, none of which were a good look for a head coach that really preaches those things. So that was not a good look for Joe Judge at all. Last week, the Giants went into New Orleans and played much better. My issue with Joe at this point has to do with his really conservative nature.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the 4th down statistics as far as we all know. You know, if you pay any attention to analytics, and I'm not an analytics guru per se.
That's not true, Ed. You're crunching numbers all the time. Don't sell yourself short.
Okay. Well, then we'll go with that. But my take is, you know, over the year and a half that he's been head coach, he's among the coaches who goes for it on 4th down the least. He's among the most conservative head coaches in the NFL. I think he had a couple of opportunities against Washington to go for it inside the Washington 40 and turn them both down. At the end of the game, after James Bradbury had made an interception with the Giants down 1, puts them at the Washington 20-yard line.
And they played that safe the whole way and then settled
for the field goal. You play that safe, you settle for the field goal. You have to take one shot in the end zone there. There's no wonder Kenny Golladay was upset, because you're paying him $72 million to make that play. Mm-hmm. You're paying him that money to throw him the ball in the end zone right there and see if he can make a play. And you didn't do it. And, you know, in 3 straight games, he's had opportunities inside an opponent's 40-yard line to go for a first down on 4th and short. And he keeps turning them down. And the analytics will tell you that every time he does that, he makes it harder on his football team to win a game. Mm-hmm. Now, we saw last night, you know, it doesn't always work. But when it does work, you know, you put yourself in a position to win a football game, or where you really give yourself an enhanced chance to win a game. And that's my biggest problem with Joe, is his really, really conservative. I'm going to punt. I'm going to rely on my special teams. I'm going to rely on my defense and hope something happens later, you know, kind of deal. Now, that worked against New Orleans, but it's not going to work. You know, most of the time it's not going to work.
I agree with you, Ed. I think those are cowards. I think, you know, Sean McVay was a little bit cowardly, you know, for the Rams on Thursday night against the Seahawks. You mentioned it. Played really conservative at the end. If not for the Geno Smith interception where Tyler Lockett falls down, you know, Sean McVay, you know, he got bailed out by that interception, is my point, because he played things really conservative. I think every Cowboys fan's really pumped about this. This is unfortunately a nice segue to my final question on the subject of conservative head coaches, which Mike McCarthy is not. He is, you know, you talk about every measurement you look at, every graph that has this information, Mike McCarthy is among the more aggressive head coaches, which is what every Cowboys fan asked for after they moved on from Jason Garrett. The team's offensive coordinator, New York's offensive coordinator, is in his own nature extremely conservative. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about this, given this particular matchup. What are Giants fans' thoughts on Jason Garrett? You mentioned Kenny Golladay getting upset. He specified that the person who he was upset with was, in fact, Jason Garrett. We saw the Giants have offensive success last week against New Orleans, but if there is some down, if the mood is a little down on Joe Judge, I have to imagine the mood is very, very, very low on Jason Garrett.
Well, it's an interesting thing, RJ, because you're asking me this after the best offensive performance by the Giants in the Garrett era as offensive coordinator. They put up 485 yards last week against New Orleans. The ball was going down the field consistently. If you look at the passing charts, I think Jones was 8 of 10 or 9 of 11, something like that on passes of, 15 yards or more from the line of scrimmage. So the ball was getting down the field. And we asked Garrett about that this week, and he said, what happens a lot of times is we have plays that are designed to get the ball down the field, and things happen, like we don't have pass protection and the ball has to go somewhere else. It just, he said, look, we had pass protection. We had time to get the ball down the field, and it went down the field. I'm optimistic about what we saw on Sunday from the Giants, because they did things like get the ball to Kenny Golladay down the field. They took shots to John Ross. They were very aggressive offensively in a lot of their play calling, which is sort of, what you would look at as the anti-Garrett. I think it helps when Saquon Barkley looks like Saquon Barkley, and you can split him out and he can make plays, and you can throw him a screen pass and he can make guys miss. And when Kadarius Toney is taking a 2-yard pass on 3rd and 18 and leaving Saints defenders strewn all over the field while he goes and gets the first down. Garrett's taken a lot of heat in the year plus that he's been Giants offensive coordinator. I'm anxious to see if what we saw Sunday is an aberration, or if it's a sign that the vertical offense that we've been promised, that the offense that's willing to throw the home run ball to John Ross, the offense that's looking to take advantage of Daniel Jones' ability to get the ball down the field, are we going to continue to see that, or was Sunday against New Orleans just an aberration?
I think I know the answer to that, but Sunday will definitely let us know one way or the other. Ed Valentine, you were the GOAT. In case anybody is mistaken, Ed Valentine is the GOAT, the main man, the big time deal. All right. Everybody recognize Ed Valentine from Big Blue View, SB Nation's home for New York Giants coverage. Ed does a fantastic job over there. Ed, you got to pick the game. Cowboys, Giants, who's winning? Line is 6.5 at the time we're talking, thanks to our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook. But, where you going?
Well, you know me, RJ. You know me. I'm going for the Giants here. I'm going for the upset, and I know that that's a homer pick. I know it is, but I just want to see meaningful football games for the New York Giants somewhere beyond Week 5. And I think that pick is more hopeful than anything else, because I feel like the Giants have lost at least 2 football games already that they should have won. Maybe they'll catch a break. I mean, they're going to need some help. They're going to need some turnovers. They're going to need a big play on special teams. Maybe it's about time that the Giants catch a break and win a game they're not supposed to win.
That's actually really sweet. I hope you're wrong, but that's really, really nice. Ed, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Everybody check out bigblueview.com. Again, it's worth checking out if you're a Cowboys fan. It's always worth keeping tabs on the enemy. Ed, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, Ed Valentine, for taking the time to join us. Great discussion, great conversation about what the New York Giants can present for the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday. Who knows? I mean, you know, everyone has a chance, right? Theoretically, any given Sunday and all that jazz. But look, there are some serious things or things that the Cowboys need to take seriously when it comes to the Giants, things they have to prepare for. To understand that on a more deeper level, we now dive into the film room with Matt Minnick here at Blogging the Boys.
The Giants are 1-3 this season, and the subpar play of quarterback Daniel Jones is a big part of that. But as we saw last week, he has got some talented pass catchers who can make big-time plays if he can get them the ball. After not eclipsing 300 passing yards all of last season, Jones threw for 402 yards in the Giants' 27-21 overtime victory over the New Orleans Saints. The Giants' first touchdown came on the first play of their fourth drive, when Jones threw a 52-yard bomb to speedy new addition John Ross. This play showed off his arm and the playmaking potential of this offense. In the fourth quarter, Jones had another leadoff home run as he hit running back Saquon Barkley running along the sidelines for a 54-yard score. The Cowboys need to be strong in coverage and pressure Jones, forcing him to throw the ball into their opportunistic secondary. The previous clip was a nice play by Saquon Barkley, but returning from a knee injury that ended his 2020 season and running behind a line that is shaky at best, the former second overall pick has not been productive in 2021. In fact, it is Daniel Jones, not Barkley, who is currently the Giants' leading rusher. But Barkley has shown a couple of nice flashes, like this game-winning touchdown run in overtime last week. He makes a great jump cut in the backfield before getting downhill and into the end zone. The Cowboys need to keep Barkley contained because he still has the potential to make big plays when he gets into the open field. Defensively, the Giants may have found something in rookie Azeez Ojulari. The second rounder has had 3 sacks in the Giants' first 4 games. Here, Ojulari comes hard off the edge, and the tackle turns his shoulders to counter. Ojulari cuts hard inside, sacking the quarterback and causing a fumble in the process. He is a dangerous player. The Cowboys must know where he is when they drop back to pass. The Giants' offense lacks the efficiency in both the run and the pass game to beat you with long sustained drives. Plus, long drives play right into the hands of the Cowboys, giving them more opportunities for turnovers. That's the key to this game. Prevent big plays. If Dallas can stop the big play from the New York Giants, the Giants won't be able to see the end zone, and it should create turnover opportunities for the Cowboys defense.
Big thanks to Matt Minnick for educating us on the Giants to pay attention to this Sunday. Like I said, it should be a win for the Cowboys, but hardly an easy win. There's never an easy win in the NFL. It's the NFL. Look at the fact that the Giants beat the Saints last week is an example if you need one. I mentioned it early on. This is America's Game of the Week, and that means it is on Fox. The 3-1 Dallas Cowboys will host the 1-3 New York Giants. 3:25 is the kick as far as Central Time is concerned, the right time zone, but 4:25 if you are on the East Coast. Obviously, that's 1:25 if you're Pacific time. Time is relative anyway. Who cares about time? But on Fox, Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Aaron Andrews on the call. It will feel very big. It is a big game. Like I said, we will hear all about the Dak Prescott storyline from beginning to end on the broadcast. You can always listen to this game on 105.3 The Fan, the home of the Dallas Cowboys. You will hear Brad Sham, Christy Scales, and Babe Laufenberg. A fine option if you'd rather go that route. Maybe you're on the road, you need to listen to it on the radio. Whatever you want to do, that's up to you. It is prediction time. I told Ed that I think the Cowboys are winning this game. If it isn't obvious to think the Cowboys are winning this game, what is my official score prediction? Cowboys 33, Giants 20. Now, the line has shifted all week long. It is about 6.5 now. It was 7 when we made this graphic, 7.5 when the week opened up. So generally somewhere, depending on where you look, you get our friends or the DraftKings Sportsbook, so we use their odds. But 6.5, 7.5, I don't care what it is. I'm taking the Cowboys to cover. Like I said, the only team in the NFL that is undefeated against the spread this season. This is a big opportunity for the Dallas Cowboys, which is why we've talked about it the way we have. You can get to 4-1 with one game left before the bye. They've managed to go undefeated since all the bad stuff has happened. Michael Gallup's calf strain, Lyle Collins' suspension, DeMarcus Lawrence's broken foot, Randy Gregory going on the COVID list. Obviously, he's back. Donovan Wilson's groin injury, Tyne Secchi's heat exhaustion. Granted, he's been practicing this week, but this is a big opportunity for the Cowboys to get to 4-1, to announce themselves as a team to be a legitimate contender in the NFC. We all think that's going to be the case. So keep on doing it, Cowboys. Just keep on proving us right. My name is RJ Ochoa. You know me from Blogging the Boys, bloggingtheboys.com, here on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel, the Blogging the Boys podcast network. We love talking about the Dallas Cowboys. We love doing that with you. That's why we're here. That's why we lift all them weights. So please subscribe here to the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. Next time you'll see me will be on our live post-game show. We do these after every single Dallas Cowboys game. We go live. We gather around the campfire. We celebrate. We mourn, whatever the case calls for. We make sure to do it together. We also have live roundtables every Tuesday where myself, some people from throughout the Blogging the Boys universe gather together to talk about the state of the Cowboys, what we like, what we don't like, so on and so forth. But yeah, it's just about game time. So looking forward to it. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. I mean, just have the best time ever. Fall is here. It feels great outside. Get some good food. Get ready for the game. And let's go out. Let's get this bread. Not like get different food. It's fall. Get better food than bread. But let's get this bread metaphorically. Let's get this win, and we'll see you after the game. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. See you next time.